You
actually.
called if you hadn't come.
I called a couple outfits and they gave me the kind of the runaround about coming out. They were busy and so. They're still working, I welded them up, so.
Well, you can let us know when you find something out on that.
Yeah.
I think if we need windows down there, we ought to get them put in. I make a motion that we get the windows replaced. We got the bid.
The bid for-
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go ahead and approve the fixing of the windows down at the shop. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, well, that one's taken care of.
I'll call them.
See what we can do about getting some bids on the door?
I called some different people
You
and
called Billings Overhead. and they
Billy's
were
Overhead
busy.
and one other one, and they were giving me the runaround. They were busy. When they got somebody in the area, they would give me a holler, and
They haven't.
they'd never got
Yeah,
it.
they don't.
There's a guy in Joliet came out and looked at my shop, he was really reasonable.
So,
I don't remember his name, but
Yeah, maybe we can call
Try
them.
Bailey's.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
let me
really.
know.
If you can find
What's
his
his
name.
I got his card in my
I
shop.
said, did you
but-
try Bailey's
Oh.
doors? Bailey doors?
I don't remember if I
They did a real good, they were really nice for me to work with on my.
Billings Overhead and
Connors or something.
Connors Overhead, and there was one other one, but basically they were all, basically what it boiled down to is they were all right in the middle of new construction, and they really didn't wanna have a custom fit.
Yeah, I have that guy's business card actually.
He's really good and really
On the,
reasonable.
it's actually on the community calendar for
Yeah,
Delegate, so.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay.
He was down the same day too for me.
Yeah, good.
I'd rather pay local, I'd rather give it to local than
Yeah.
anywhere else, so. Maybe they can repair the panels and replay, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something,
I don't know if it's the openers, the way they are operating, if we have to look at replacing one panels up on the top and then getting a different opener that doesn't pull the way it pulls. They're big doors,
Right.
they're heavy doors, so that might be part of the issue, I don't know, that's just what was there, and they've had issues with it before, but 2 or 3 pieces of angle iron, we got them back up and going, so.
okay, anything else?
Mike did at one point, and I might ask Rich to, at several meetings ago, I can't remember exactly which meeting. Did you say that you had purchased already curb stops?
Curb stops? Oh, I keep them in stock, yes.
Okay, and
You're
so,
talking the metal
do you have
curb
a
stops.
timeline in between everything else where you can replace some of these on the street?
It's, the curb stops are kind of as an emergency requires, you know, if it's really leaking bad. Otherwise, I can probably, there's better than 2 dozen curb stops that can do, that are considered leaking. It's more along the lines if they're actually pushing water up and out or creating a soft spot, they kind of hit the top of the priority list on the curb stops. We just note them whenever we have to go into them, if we have to go into them, if we know if there's water in the hole, that's usually a sign. It's not a guarantee that it's a leak, so that's.
So, and what is this down here by Everett's shop? You guys,
That was a water service line
okay,
that they paved over.
yeah, there's.
We had to cut it out and open it up, and we actually found out that it is his water service line, so now we can repair it, and then we'll patch it back in, and then put him a meter loop system in his building, so he has water.
Okay.
I don't like cutting up Main Street, so
Well,
we
now
lucked out very well and actually found it underneath the cement. So, and we were able to get it cleaned out with using Bridger's equipment. They have made up, we'll make our own little setup, kind of similar to theirs, but we were able to get it cleaned out to where we could get, because they cut it off and then left it open and then did all the work, so it got full of sand, gravel. We couldn't get anything on it. Bridger's kind of made some little adapter things, little pump setup and stuff like that, that actually worked. We were able to get it cleaned out, blown out, so that we could actually get our wrench onto it. And they worked it today, and it opens up, and Mr. Fenner has water there, so now we'll repair it and cement it back in with his curb stop up on top, and he'll, once he gets going inside, then we'll put a meter loop and a new meter inside for him. Everybody else on Main Street has water, so.
Make a motion to accept Mike's report.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept Mike's report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thanks, Mike. Ralph, you're up.
Okay, got a couple of reports of trespass up at the school. One of them was, on the north side of the multi-purpose room there off the gym. They found some beer cans and cigarettes. And, a report of a couple of 16-year-old males that, dropouts. School dealt with them. Had a report of a broken window in a residence over on the east side. On the 26th, I met with the property manager. Agency assist, Bridger PD had a 911 hang-up. Went down there, assisted them on that. Turned out to be unfounded, but just the same, we had to locate all the kids that were involved. Gas drive off, unable to locate, but based on the description, I was able to identify to them who it probably was. Have a walk-in, wanted a welfare check over east of town, referred them to the Carbon County Sheriff's Office. 22nd, we had a coroner call over here on the west side. Lift assist with QRU over on the east side on the 25th. And had a report and recovery of a lost corgi dog on the west side, 2 nuisance dogs on the 5th and the 11th, both times cited. Unidentified fawn corgi up on the school on the west side, still haven't quite figured out where that one belongs. Served a subpoena on the east side, tree and brush encroachment, sent out 3 letters on that, one of which has been completed, the other, one of the remaining made contact, and their employees have been out with a new baby, so they're gonna get after that hopefully this week. I've gotta make contact with the 3rd one over on the east side. There's a report of children playing in the street, failing to yield to traffic. I spoke to the parents, that was the east side. Moved a couple of deer carcasses from the highway early morning on the 26th. Parking congestion on the end of 3rd Avenue, right of way is gone. Yes, there's gonna be an occasional vehicle parked there, but it's not gonna be trailers and trucks parked there forever. Visited with an elderly female, and no parking zone over at the post office. And there was a complaint of a motor vehicle blocking the driveway vicinity of the school. Well, by the time I got up there, she had already left a note on the windshield, and the owner had come out and got mad and left. Well, not blocking the driveway no more. We had the LEPC meeting in Fromberg on the 6th. Attended the gang task force meeting at Billings Probation and Parole on 26th. Attended the anti-terrorism conference put on by the Montana U.S. Attorney's Office. That was enlightening to say the least. Attended semi-annual firearms qual with the Carbon County Sheriff's Office, day-night pistol primary and backup qualification. And I got September purchase order for ammunition. And upcoming right now is just ammunition for October. Patrol unit had 1,084 miles. 8th of September got an oil change. 15 through 28 September got tires replaced, front brakes and rotors, and distributor and a tune-up. It's amazing when you get somebody that knows what they're looking at and listening to, how quickly it can be fixed. And attached to your report is the off-site vehicle mileage report.
Thanks, Ralph. Any questions for Ralph or comments?
motion to accept Rouse report as requisition for ammo for practice.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Ross report with his purchase orders. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right. So on the correspondence, we did receive a letter from the advocacy, the frombergadvocacy.com last month. We rounded up some documents. They wanted documents that were, I think February, I'm not sure the dates, February to November. I'd have to look back at that letter, but we rounded up some documents and then we received a letter that says, and I'll read it. We are in receipt of your document packet, article, long number because it was sent certified. Per said document packet, we notice there are only 8 means of communication, 6 letters and 2 single paper sheets which have no provenance. 2 of the said 8 are from the frombergadvocacy.com. 8 total means of communication seems very few given the 8-month period of documentation we requested. We have concrete knowledge of at least 1 additional letter from the requested time frame that was not included in the said document packet. We also note there were no responses included in the document packet, indicating that Town of Fromberg had indeed replied to any such persons who had written to voice their concerns. We are now requesting any and all such responses. Again, said request is made pursuant to Section 9 of Article 2 of the Montana Constitution, the public right to know provision, and all related statutes. We also note that each monthly agenda for the Town Council meeting list as one of its items correspondence. It seems that several of the 8 pieces of correspondence we received have never been read or discussed during the time allotted for correspondence. Therefore, how and when does the Town of Fromberg address such items? We will be glad to pay the cost for any copies for this information. Sincerely, the frombergadvocacy.com. So apparently we missed one that was for sure missed, which we'll have to go back and look for it. And if you happen to know the date or who sent it, we might have a better chance of locating that. So I don't know what to say on that. If you mentioned some of the phone calls, we don't record phone calls, so we don't make a written record of phone calls. But if you have something we missed, we'll certainly go back through and look at it. We don't have any problem with open records. Now, if we get correspondence, we don't always, and I don't think we're required to necessarily read them all out of town council meeting. So we may have gotten letters. We certainly don't read letters that are pertaining to any kind of an investigation that's going on. We've had several of those over the years that we don't read out aloud because there's an investigation going on. So if you have knowledge of the ones that were missing, we'll certainly take another look. Might have got misfiled. I can't tell you, I can't think of any letters that we would have had that were complaint letters that we didn't read out loud and address those all year long. So we will certainly look into it. It would help if you know, could give us some clue as to what you're looking for specifically. But we will take another look. And then we received another request for records from last year, all of last year. And I will read this one again. This is basically the same as the one we had last month, only it's a different date. So the reference was open records request for all constituent letters from the advocacy group, Town of Fromberg. Reference, open records request for all constituent letters sent to the mayor and or town council of Fromberg, Montana, from January 1 of 2016 through December 31 of 2016. Dear Town of Fromberg, we hereby request any and all records of constituent letters sent to the mayor and town council of Fromberg from January 1 through December 31st, excuse me, 2016. This request is made pursuant to Section 9, Article 2 of the Montana Constitution, the public right to know provision, and all related statutes. We will be glad to pay the cost of any copies for this information. So Brenda is working on that. But I want to point out that the request was for letters sent to the mayor and the council. You did not request, I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but you didn't request responses at the time you asked for the letters. I don't have a problem with sending responses, but we typically send whatever you ask for. And we will include responses in this request even though it's not listed. So it's letters sent to the mayor and town council is what we addressed the first time. And we will go back and look and send you the responses from the ones before. I'm assuming that would be satisfactory.
What's the policy? I mean, if somebody sends in a letter, what happens to it? I mean,
I file it.
you file, you
I've
gotta,
got a pink file about this fact of letters that have come into the town, but they're not stating anything.
And that's years and years of
And
letters.
that's years and stuff.
So
Yeah.
I don't think I think that you've been working on the letters for this year,
I
the
sent
last
them-
request.
Yeah, the last request, I sent them certified. Sent a letter to them, which you had at your last meeting,
Mhm.
where they stated, they would pay for that amount, and that's what I took it to the post office. I had them weigh it, I sent it certified. It took like almost 2 days before the deadline.
But the point I wanna make is that
Sign.
even a year's worth is not that many
Yeah.
letters. I don't know, you guys
No.
think that everybody writes us letters all the time complaining or something, but we don't get that many, and usually they're from the same people over and over and over, just so you know. So, you'll find that out when you get the next batch of letters. Sometimes they're regarding, their water bills or something like that, and we try to explain again how those work. So, we will round that up and again, if you have ones that you think we should have had, then if you let us know, we'll try to figure out if something got misfiled. We send out what we find in our files, so. And Brenda does a pretty good job of making sure she has everything. Policy-wise, we generally try to put them in here, but we don't always read them necessarily. We may just, I know several times I've said that this was already covered, or this is an issue that's been voted on, and, you know, they're unhappy, and I kind of just paraphrase it, but you guys can decide how you want to do it. If you want to have a particular policy for it, then create one. This next one is to the Fromberg City Council and Mayor. And it has come to my attention that the property the city owns, which is known as the Barley Field, is up for bid, which would not be a problem if in fact there was proper disclosure and or proper cleanup of the existing property. I have informed numerous city officials in the past 10 or more years that I, along with my mother, Marge Taylor, witnessed a party digging a hole and burying items on that location that could be deemed hazardous. Such items include a very large propane tank and junk cars. This is not the only junk site in the vicinity. There is another one on what is surveyed as a city street which contains refrigerator and other items. This was covered when a former mayor placed a complaint of junk being dumped, and a city official took it upon himself to call a resident who had nothing to do with it and had him cover it, versus having a dumpster called in and proper cleanup. If it is your intention to sell this land without proper disclosure and or cleanup, then you, the council, as well as the mayor, should be held financially and personally responsible. Kind regards, Tammy Taylor. And this is something that we have heard from time to time, and is Marge or Tammy, Marge, you're still here? Could you on this map tell us where that took place, or this is Tammy's house right here?
It's right by that, it's right by that little White House. I can't on the map probably. But there's that little White House that used to be Lou Erickson's.
Doug Calvig's the one that buried him, I think, wasn't he? No names.
Oh, you know of illegal dumping, but you don't want to say anything because
I don't know where that little White House is. You know, there's a trailer. Who lives in that trailer?
Kurt Hanlon now.
Kurt Hanlon lives in a trailer, and it's a White House going south from Kurt Hanlon.
so, and it would be east of Tammy's place,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh,
West.
west.
Oh, so it's over this way. So it's, I guess I'm gonna.
There's two places down there where there's been stuff dumped.
Okay. So can anybody point to where those names where you said they live now? On this map, this would be the ball field,
Lou Erickson used to own it.
Orpha Pruitt, and Tammy, right?
Yep.
So, is it behind one of these houses?
No, it's
No.
back this way.
On the
Back
other
this way?
side of
Keep
So
going, you're
across
paying
from
across.
Tammy's.
Like this way?
Keep going, stop.
So out in here?
No, back up.
Okay.
There's the house that you're talking about.
Oh, so it was buried by this house or something?
Down towards in the alley like there, yeah,
Okay.
right about
Or like in
there.
this alley,
No,
somewhere right here,
there,
Well, it's very
there, and then right behind that house, there's more.
more.
Tammy could tell you where that is, I can't, I
Behind
watched
which-
the other
Behind
one.
which direction, towards the highway?
Eh?
Behind which direction? You said behind the house, towards the highway?
Yeah.
Well,
Because Don Hanlon's house, or Kurt Hanlon's house, there, I mean, it goes there, there's nothing that we have that's there. I mean, as to my knowledge.
There's, you'd have to ask Tammy about the alley, because
Okay.
I don't know.
well,
I really
No, I'm just trying to figure out where it's at, cause I mean, I've been all over, I haven't found anything in all the stuff that we've done.
well, and this was brought up to us before, by the way, and Hope, I think Shirley, you went over and talked to Hope and thought you had heard about a couple of tanks or something. And I researched and found that there's 2 buried tanks from the railroad that are out in this area. And so if we could get together sometime and try to pinpoint where that was, this line here is not necessarily real accurate, but
Excuse me.
the barley field is just this part
I'm
down.
sorry.
So it would be very important to know exactly how far or whatever they might have done something.
This is Tammy?
Right.
Okay.
Right
and
there's
the,
Tammy's.
And the Lou's house is here, that little old white house? Okay.
Is that
So
the
it'd
guy
be
that used
right
to have the
about-
wolves there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, now I
It'd
know
be
where-
right about, right in there,
there.
right in this area.
Okay, now there's a,
Be right about there.
okay, now there's a big bunch of berm and stuff that, I mean, is,
Could be a sign of.
I mean, it could be something there, but it's not, I don't think it's enlisted in the field that they're talking about. I'm not even sure on the property line, because the
I don't
baseball
know where
field
the
curls
property line
around.
goes, but it's
The
up to
baseball
town
field
to
curls
clean up.
around there, and the barley field goes there, and that's all back in, if that's where it's at, that's all back in on,
Yeah.
with that other place.
But, you know, it would be nice if we could pinpoint something, but.
Well, yeah.
But as far as disclosure, and Hope, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you would make a disclosure on a buy-sale, you would certainly say that there's a potential of that if you think it's on this property. We could do some sort of, I don't know how you would find out, I mean, I guess, you know. But the property that I've seen where people have, thinks that something went on, they say, that there's possibly something buried.
This wasn't possible.
Well, I know,
This was real.
but we don't know where exactly, we'd have to find out where exactly. All I'm saying is, we could just, you know, that would be, the disclosure of this would be now, for one thing, but it would be formally on a legal document of a buy-sale, you would make those disclosures. So if we can find where this is likely to have occurred, and let the person who's, prospective person interested in this property, I found it, I would just think that it would be unlikely that somebody went out into somebody's field and buried something without their permission. Do you know what year this took place? Was it after the town owned
What
this
year,
big
what
thing?
year was Renee mayor? It was towards the end of her mayorship.
2004 or 5, I think. 4
It
or
was
5.
towards the end of her mayorship
2004
when
or
Doug
5.
Talovich lived there.
So, 4 and 5, I'm gonna put that on there. The last, that'll be 4, 6, right?
And
Well,
what was
4 and
buried?
5.
A propane
A big propane tank, and it's a good sized one, about 500.
Oh, that is a good one.
I think he
Yeah,
buried
it's
quite
not
bit.
just a little.
Dang, that'd make good hog roasters.
Lou wanted to cut it apart and make something, and he was afraid to because he didn't know how empty it was.
So we would be
Well, that could
getting
be
with Hope.
potentially dangerous if that was still
And-
If we still have
You know,
propane, you need to.
Yeah, we need to do something to try to figure it
If
out.
they can give you a more accurate pinpoint, we can try using the metal detector and see if we can't find something.
I think Tammy could walk you almost identical to where it was,
Okay.
or
That'd be
I,
good, and then
I
we
could
could,
on that one.
and then we
There's
know
a
where-
land disclosure form you can fill out
Right.
too that will cover.
Yeah, and we know where the boundaries are, cause we had the field survey, so it could be that it isn't on the field. We'd have to find that out though. But that's good information, and tell Tammy we appreciate her letting us know this, kind of some specifics here. Cause I've heard the rumors too, and I looked up the tank registry and found 2 that were not anywhere near the property, but I kind of assumed that's what maybe everybody was talking about. But that wouldn't have propane tanks and cars listed, so apparently it was, people are free to bury stuff or allowed to bury stuff.
Well, is there a question of whether we would be responsible financially to, if it is contaminated in some way to a certain degree, that we would have to clean it up because it is our property before we sell it? I mean, there are a lot of
Well, we didn't have to
questions.
clean up the landfill before we tried to sell it. We just had to disclose that it was a landfill at one time. And
Well, I know, but
buyer
that
kind of
was,
beware, if you wanna go out there and do something with it, you have to get approval from DEQ and that kind of thing. It's not that kind of a deal, I mean, yes, I think we're vulnerable to a suit if we're knowingly selling a piece of property that has contamination.
that's why I asked
Right.
at the last meeting about possible contamination of that property, because I don't want to get into a financial fix before we sell it. I mean, before we sell it, if we can get it repaired or cleaned up or whatever we have to do,
Right,
instead of taking a financial risk of selling it and then having it come back to bite us in the butt later.
and I guess you could just, oh yeah, go ahead.
As long as you disclose it,
Yeah.
it becomes the responsibility of the buyers.
Right.
We dealt with that
Buyer beware.
when we purchased the shop. We had to do the research and make sure that the EPA had done everything on removing the gas tanks and doing all the cleanup on that. Because once we take possession of it, we would have been held financially responsible for that, as long as it was disclosed that that was a possibility.
Okay.
And so, there's a couple other items that will relate to this field that we'll get to when we get down to that point. I don't believe there's any zoning. Okay. Then we have a resolution. You guys held a special meeting last week, was it already? Yeah, last week. I was out of town, but agreeing to to take on the additional cost of the wastewater system. And so this is the resolution that amends the previous resolution that we had. And I'll read the header just like we did on those others. And basically all it is changing is that it's adding in that new money that we're going to be obligated for. A resolution of the town of Fromberg, Carbon County, Montana, amending and supplementing the town's resolution resolution number 468 in section 101, 204, 301, 302, 303, and 311, and 504, and authorizing and providing for the issuance of an additional wastewater system revenue bond in the principal amount of $580,000 for the purpose of providing additional funds for the completed improvements to the town's wastewater system. And I guess for the people in town here that maybe weren't at the last meeting, because of what we discovered analyzing that property and testing for the groundwater, there became an issue where that project's gonna have to put in dewatering wells and remove the groundwater out of the area before they can construct the new lagoon. Those may be temporary during just until they get it built, and then they may decide that they have to be left in there to always keep dewatering the groundwater. And that's what added on to the cost that wasn't foreseen when they first estimated the project, because they assumed that the lagoons were, because they're gonna be built right where the lagoons are, that wouldn't be a problem. But they did, we did put in wells. We actually paid to have a company come in and put in wells to test that. And it's kind of a mystery of how those lagoons were even allowed to be built there unless the water tables changed drastically over the years, which it very well could have done. Because they're basically down into the groundwater, according to the groundwater the way it is now. So anyway, it was, in one sense, it's not good to have to take on another $500,000, but in another sense, it's good to do it right and not have to redo the project because we didn't do the testing to find out where the groundwater was. So, silver lining maybe, I guess you could call that, but an expensive one. So we would need to approve this to amend our previous resolution for the revenue bond for the project.
So this is amending resolution 468?
Yes, it's resolution number 471, I think I forgot to read that. That's amending resolution 468, which was the original document for the wastewater.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution 471 to amend resolution 468 as stated.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And Brenda, I'm supposed to sign this and you can fill out the rest. And I want you to put down all the members who voted yes, all the members who voted no, which we didn't have, and anybody abstained or that was absent. Oops, okay, this is my other one. Okay, on to the next one is the, last meeting we talked about the half alley and the council directed Hope to work up the paperwork to get that accomplished, so I read resolution 472. A resolution to approve a quitclaim deed, whereas the town of Fromberg by a vote of council at a regular town council meeting on August 1, 2011, did release claim to and vacate a proposed alley, and whereas the town has not released half of the proposed alley, and whereas a document is needed to effect the release, now therefore be it resolved by the town of Fromberg, Montana, that the town will proceed to effect the release of the remaining half alley described as easterly one half of the proposed alley, 10 feet by 210.82 feet, in blocks 5 of the original plat of the town of Fromberg, located in the northwest quarter, northeast quarter of section 20, township 5 south, range 23, PMM, Carbon County, Montana, by executing a quitclaim deed to James A. Perkins Sr. and Anita A. Perkins, and attach a copy of said deed to this resolution. Passed and approved by the Fromberg Town Council, approved by the mayor on this blank day of blank 2017.
I have one question about
Okay.
that. Did it cost the city any additional funds for Hope to do this? No? Okay.
Part of the normal duties of the city attorney.
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept resolution 472 to approve the quitclaim deed.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to accept resolution 472 as read. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
I abstain.
And all abstained, okay. So this is, okay, somebody tell me what day this is, October 2?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll pass this one around and then, Jim, you can just cross out absent and put abstain if you want.
Yeah.
And